Gideon picked up the empty envelope, rose from his chair, and followed the nurse down the corridor and into a well-appointed doctor's consultation room. To his surprise, the doctor was already seated behind a desk. On one side of his desk were the beat-up medical records and MRIs that Gideon had been carrying around with him in the envelope for the better part of a year. On the other side was a fresh set of pictures and scans, the ones taken 2 days before. Dr. Conrad was about 60, with a mild expression, gray eyes, and a sheaf of salt and pepper hair. He gazed kindly at Gideon through a pair of black-rimmed glasses. "Hello, Gideon," he said. "May I use your first name?" "Of course." "Please, sit down." Gideon sat. There was a moment of silence while the doctor cleared his throat, then looked briefly from the old MRIs to the new. "I take it that you are already apprised of your condition?" "Yes. It's known as a vein of Galen malformation. It's an abnormal knot of arteries and veins deep in my brain, in an area known as the Circle of Willis. It's usually congenital, and in my case, inoperable. Because the arteriovenous walls are steadily weakening, the AVM is expanding in size and will eventually hemorrhage, which will be instantly fatal." There was a brief, uncomfortable silence. "That's as good a summary as I could have made." Dr. Conrad propped his palms on the edge of his desk and interlaced his fingers. "When you first learned of your AVM," he asked, "did the doctor give you a prognosis on how long you might expect to live?" "Yes." "And how long was that?" "About a year." "When was that?" "Almost 10 months ago." "I see." The doctor shuffled through the images on his desk, cleared his throat again. "I'm very sorry to have to tell you, Gideon, but from these tests and everything else I've seen, the original prognosis was correct." Although he had half expected this, indeed, he'd had no real reason to suppose it would be different, for a moment, Gideon found he couldn't speak. "You mean I've only got 2 more months to live?" "Comparing your original MRIs with the ones we just did, the progress of your AVM has been textbook, unfortunately. So yes, I would say that it is a likely time frame, give or take a few weeks." "There aren't any new treatments or surgical options?" "As you probably have learned, most brain AVMs can be treated with surgery, radiation, or embolization, but the location of your AVM and its size make it impossible to be treated with those methods. Anything we did, either surgical or radiological, would almost certainly cause severe brain damage, if you survived at all." Gideon leaned back in his chair. All the anxiety and uncertainty that had been hovering around him the last several weeks now settled down like a dead weight. He could hardly breathe. Dr. Conrad leaned forward. "It's tough, son. There's nothing I can say to make it otherwise. It may not help to hear this, but you know how much time is allotted you. Most of us don't have that luxury." "Luxury," Gideon groaned. 2 months, a luxury, please. When Warren Zevon, the rock star, knew he was dying of cancer, someone asked him how he was coping with that knowledge. His reply? "Enjoy every sandwich." My advice to you is similar. Don't become miserable and paralyzed with grief and fear. Instead, do something worthwhile and engaging with the time you have left. Gideon said nothing. He merely shook his head. He felt sick. 2 months. But why did he expect anything different? You're strong and mobile and will remain so until the end. That's the nature of AVM. So I'll tell you what I tell my other patients facing the same situation. Live every minute the best way you can. A long moment passed while Gideon sat in the chair, motionless. Dr. Conrad smiled at him from across the desk with the same kindly expression. When he started gathering together the various reports and scans, Gideon realized the conference was at an end. He stood up. "Thank you," he said. The neurosurgeon stood as well, handed him the paperwork, then shook his hand. "God bless you, Gideon. And remember what I said."